We thought he was gone, locked away, silenced, but the Mexican clown is back, and he's not laughing. In a twist straight out of a nightmare, he returns with a threat for the cartels. Hold on to your hats. This one is as terrifying as they come. The clown sends a message to El Mencho. When the video first hit the dark corners of the internet, most people thought it was fake, some sick, twisted horror fan film made for shock value, but it wasn't. The screaming was too real, the silence was too sudden, and the mask, the clown mask, it wasn't CGI, it was El Payaso, and he was back. This was the same blood-soaked clown who years ago peeled the face off a man, alive, and filmed it. The same deranged sicario who laughed as his victims begged for water, only to be mocked in return.
¿Agua? ¿Eh? Dime recio. Te metías con la boca.
He vanished ere his arrest in 2020, presumed locked away in some maximum security cell. But just last week, a new video surfaced, and this time, it wasn't a snuff film. There was no torture, no blood. It was a message, a warning, a threat, a direct, unapologetic, and hauntingly personal message to the cartels that once controlled him. And if what this message implies is even half true, then Mexico's criminal underworld is about to erupt in blood. This wasn't just a reappearance. It was a declaration, a war cry, and a direct threat to Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, aka El Mencho, the most feared and most powerful drug lord in all of Mexico. But how is this even possible? We watched El Payaso get arrested in 2020. He was reportedly taken down during the very same raid that killed La Catrina, CJNG's notorious female commander. That was supposed to be the end of the clown, the final curtain call. But now, this eerie, distorted reappearance is turning certainty into chaos. And what's even more disturbing than his return is why he returned. But to understand the weight of that message, we need to go back to where the nightmare began. This is the clip that birthed the legend of El Payaso, the first public sign of his insanity. It wasn't just torture, it was a performance. The man's skin was gone. His pleas were muffled by what was lee of his throat, yet the killers laughed. They offered water only to yank it away, mocking his suffering like it was part of some twisted circus act. This wasn't warfare, this was theater. And the man behind the mask was Fabian Urbino Morales, better known now as El Payaso, or the clown. He wasn't always like this. He was once a literal circus performer, trained in juggling, balloon art. He even worked at children's birthday parties. But when his local circus folded and the bills started piling up, Fabian took a darker path. He joined the Gulf Cartel, specifically a hit squad faction called Los Metros. At first, he was just another sicario, but soon, his methods caught the eye of a rising cartel warlord, El Mencho, the cold-blooded kingpin building the CJNG into the most feared criminal army in the Americas. And it wasn't just El Payaso's violence that impressed him, it was the style, theatrics, psychological warfare, terror as a brand. From there, the transformation was complete. Fabian traded his rainbow wig for an assault rifle, his balloon animals for bloodied machetes. Under Mencho's command, El Payaso formed his clown death squad, an elite cartel unit that became infamous for its grotesque cruelty. They wore clown masks, they painted their victims. Some witnesses reported that the squad would show up playing carnival music before massacring an entire family. This wasn't for fun, it was by design. Fear was the weapon, spectacle was the ammo, and for years, El Payaso was the face, no pun intended, of that terror. But then, something shied. By 2019, the world was catching up. The Mexican government, under pressure from the DEA and with its own internal security crisis spiraling out of control, finally decided to take the gloves off. In a raid that made headlines, 13 police officers were killed in a coordinated CJNG ambush in Aguililla, Michoacan. The ambush was brutal, deliberate, surgical, and the message was simple: back off. President López Obrador didn't flinch. He authorized one of the largest security crackdowns in recent memory, and in that storm of arrests and shootouts, two major targets fell. One, La Catrina, CJNG's youngest and bloodthirstiest female commander, shot in the neck during a raid. Two, El Payaso, captured alive and placed in solitary confinement under heavy surveillance. Justice? Maybe. But in the twisted world of the Mexican cartel hierarchy, silence speaks volumes, and ere his capture, El Payaso went completely quiet. Until now. Now the silence has been broken, and not with random chaos, but with something calculated, a message. The video surfaced on an encrypted messaging board linked to both cartel informants and anti-cartel vigilante groups. The clip is less than 60 seconds long, but the imagery, devastating. No blood, no victim, just the clown allegedly saying the words, "I was never your monster, Mencho, I was your mirror, and now I'm going to show you what's on the other side." In cartel code, this means one thing: betrayal. betrayal. This wasn't just vengeance, it was personal, which raises an even darker question, one that the internet has been speculating non-stop. Did CJNG betray El Payaso first? Here's what we know. Shortly after his arrest, whispers began to surface that El Payaso's own brother, a CJNG lieutenant known as El Jaguar, had struck a deal to protect the rest of his family by cutting El Payaso loose. Rumors said Mencho signed off on it, that El Payaso was expendable, a mascot gone mad, a risk. But there was a problem. You don't just cut loose a monster like him, and you especially don't try to bury him alive, because now it looks like El Payaso never forgot. 2 weeks ago, on the outskirts of Guerrero, the charred bodies of 6 CJNG-affiliated sicarios were discovered near an abandoned church. On the wall behind them, a red balloon, just one, floating gently in the breeze, tied with butcher's twine. Next to it, scrawled in blood, "The show must go on." Authorities initially blamed local rival gangs, but locals told a different story. They claimed to have seen men in clown masks walking away from the scene before the fire started. The reports were dismissed, but now, in light of the video that followed, they're being taken very seriously. Here's where things get even more terrifying. Multiple anonymous sources now believe that El Payaso may have gone rogue, or worse, joined forces with a breakaway splinter group. Some whisper he's teamed up with remnants of Los Zetas, one of the most violent cartels in Mexican history, long thought to be in decline. Others say he's creating a new clown faction, a mercenary force with no loyalties, no codes, just pain, a cult of blood and vengeance. And while no one can prove that El Payaso is behind these new killings, the pattern is disturbingly clear. Clown imagery, ritualized killings, taunting messages aimed at CJNG leadership, victims who are either current or former CJNG operatives. This is not random, this is strategic, which leaves one final haunting possibility.
Now, here's where it gets terrifying. What if this isn't revenge at all, but strategy, a false defection, a shadow war? Cartels love misdirection, and this could be one of the biggest psyops we've ever seen in organized crime. What do you think? Rogue killer or a puppet master plan?
What if El Payaso never lead the CJNG at all? What if this is all part of Mencho's long game? A false defection, a shadow war meant to flush out traitors, a psyop orchestrated by the very man it appears to attack. After all, this is a world where cartels build entire fake police units, where video messages are used like drone strikes, and where fear isn't a side effect, it's the product. So, if El Payaso's resurfacing is part of a ploy, then the next act of this circus is going to be a massacre. And if it's not, if El Payaso truly is acting alone, or worse, on behalf of an unknown new force, then CJNG's grip on the criminal underworld could be slipping fast. One final detail. In the new video, just before the screen cuts to black, there's a faint sound, almost inaudible. But if you boost the audio, it's circus music, faint, twisted, warped, and behind it, screaming, low, muffled, real. Whether it's playback from a past recording or something happening live, no one knows. But one thing is clear, the clown is back, and he's not done yet. There's also talk of twisted initiation rituals allegedly being used by El Payaso's new recruits, and the sickening video that some are calling the new Quiero Agua tape, this time not leaked, but deliberately sent to the DEA. El Payaso's death cult emerges. Something far more terrifying than a lone psycho in grease paint is unfolding right now. Because El Payaso, he may not be acting alone anymore. There are new reports, fresh footage, and verified witness accounts pointing to something the cartels feared more than rival cartels themselves: mutiny, not just defection, not just betrayal, but a theological level schism inside one of the most brutal organizations in the hemisphere, the CJNG. And at the center of that chaos is the clown. Let's start with a name that didn't make headlines, but should have: Samuel El Piloto Reza, a mid-level CJNG operative believed to be running safe houses and drop points in Veracruz. Reza disappeared in May 2024 under suspicious circumstances. Cartel insiders initially believed it was a Sinaloa hit, until a video showed up. It was leaked via Signal, then posted to an anonymous Telegram channel dedicated to cartel activity. It was only 23 seconds long, but the imagery was unmistakable. A man, stripped to the waist, tied to a chair. On his chest, in spray paint, the words, "Yo servía a payaso." I served the clown. Then a clown-masked figure appears behind him, leans down, and whispers directly into his ear before slicing his throat with a box cutter. No music, no theatrics, just rage, and a chilling caption: Traición se paga en sangre, nadie escapa del círculo. Treachery is paid in blood. No one escapes the circle. The circle, that's the word we need to talk about. Because according to 3 separate sources, from a former cartel attorney, a federal anti-organized crime officer, and a cartel widow whose identity we're protecting, El Payaso isn't rebuilding the clown unit under CJNG. He's building something new. They call it El Círculo de la Risa, the Circle of Laughter. But there's nothing funny about it. It's a cultic, semi-religious offshoot that's allegedly luring young sicarios away from their cartel handlers with a new kind of promise. No hierarchy, no rules, no loyalty, only pain, chaos, and freedom from fear. And here's the terrifying part. They aren't just recruiting, they're brainwashing. Multiple defectors have described being forced to undergo a ritual called El Silencio, where new recruits are bound, gagged, and buried alive in a coffin for 6 hours. The purpose? To simulate death, to kill the ego. One former Circle member, who escaped air just 2 weeks inside a Michoacan training camp, described the process as worse than the cartel. His exact words? They don't want soldiers, they want monsters. You don't just obey, you surrender everything. They strip you, break you, and then make you laugh while someone dies.
Okay, let's pause. This initiation ritual? 6 hours buried alive to kill the ego. This isn't a cartel anymore. It's a cult. We're talking full-on death worship ideology. Do you think groups like this are the future of organized crime, where violence becomes religion? Comment below, because this is a chilling trend.
That man is now in protective custody in Baja, California. And according to his sworn statement, the initiation ends with the same disturbing act every time. Each new member must watch, without flinching, as someone is dismembered in front of them. Then they're handed a red balloon and told, now you're part of the show. Let's be clear, this isn't a gang, it's a death cult. One rooted in trauma, forged in betrayal, and led by the single most volatile symbol of Mexico's cartel era, the clown that was supposed to be locked away forever. But now the question is, how did El Payaso escape? And why haven't the authorities said anything? Well, there are 3 possible explanations. None of them are good. Theory 1. A cartel prison break. Let's remember how much power CJNG has inside Mexico's correctional system. Inmates under Mencho's banner reportedly control food supply routes, command prison guards, and even host parties with live music inside federal prisons. One high-ranking inmate in Tamaulipas even live-streamed his own birthday party from a smuggled iPhone. So if Mencho initially approved Payaso's imprisonment, but later changed his mind, a quiet off-the-books release wouldn't be impossible. But that raises another disturbing question. Why the silence? If Payaso was released by CJNG, why is he now sending them threatening videos? Unless, theory 2, he never went to prison. Yes, the 2020 capture of El Payaso was confirmed by federal sources. His face was shown in news broadcasts. His arrest was linked to the same raid that killed La Katrina, CJNG's young female commander. But guess what? There was no mugshot, no court proceedings, no prison record under his birth name. It's entirely possible, especially in a country with the level of corruption Mexico has, that the entire arrest was a staged performance, a PR win for the government to show it was cracking down on cartels. Meanwhile, Payaso could have been whisked away, relocated, or worse, reassigned, which brings us to the darkest possibility. Theory 3. He was recruited by foreign forces. Yes, it sounds wild, but let's follow the logic. Project Python, the massive joint DEA Mexican government operation targeting CJNG, had one primary goal: capture El Mencho. They failed. But what if someone inside that operation believed Payaso, the clown, the monster, was the key to flipping the script? Think about it. He had a motive. Mencho betrayed him. He had intel. He worked inside CJNG's most elite kill units. He had a fear factor. His presence alone disrupted CJNG territory. According to several whistleblowers inside Mexico's law enforcement ranks, the US intelligence community has quietly used cartel defectors as proxy tools before, turning criminals into weapons to sow internal chaos. Is Payaso one of them now? If so, the implications are apocalyptic, because you can't control a monster like him, and now he's running loose. There's another angle to this that needs to be said. Cartels like CJNG thrive on loyalty through fear, but fear only works until someone finds a bigger monster. And El Payaso, for all his grotesque crimes, has become something bigger than fear. He's become a myth, a specter, a god of death in clown makeup. And now that he's back, others are following. Let's talk about the recent string of red balloon killings. In the last 45 days, there have been 9 executions across Guerrero, Jalisco, Michoacan, and even Mexico City, all with similar markers: victims tortured, faces mutilated or removed. A single red balloon was tied to the body. A card with the words, El Círculo los ve a todos, the circle sees them all. None of the victims has had known connections to Sinaloa or Gulf cartels. All have been linked to CJNG, and in each case, authorities have refused to comment, because they don't know what they're dealing with anymore. And here's where where it gets even worse. This week, a USB drive was mailed to a DEA sub-office in McAllen, Texas. It was postmarked from Ciudad Juarez. No name, no return address. The footage inside was too graphic for public release, but we have a reliable source who described its contents. It was like the Quiero Agua video, but worse. A young man, alive, strapped down, no face. But the kicker, the clown wasn't taunting him. He was whispering, like it was intimate, almost apologetic. Then he turns to the camera and says, "This one's for Mencho." Then he puts a revolver in the victim's mouth and pulls the trigger. That video has since been classified, but we now know the name of the victim, Jorge Alberto Montoya, a former CJNG bodyguard who disappeared 2 weeks prior. His body has yet to be recovered. At this point, even Mencho's lieutenants are reportedly terrified to travel. One source close to law enforcement says the entire city of Tepalcatepec, formerly a CJNG stronghold, is under lockdown, with masked shooters patrolling rural roads and planting signs warning against clown sympathizers. The city's police chief has gone into hiding, and local residents say it's worse than cartel violence. At least with CJNG, you knew what they wanted. These new guys, they just want you to scream. So what now? Is El Payaso trying to destroy CJNG? Is he replacing them? Or is he showing us something more frightening? That the next evolution of cartel warfare isn't about drugs or money. It's about ideology, about belief, about transforming the pain of the streets into religion, with murder as the liturgy and a clown as the high priest. And if that's what's happening, then we're not just witnessing the return of a cartel monster. We're witnessing the birth of a movement. Next, we'll be looking at the disturbing pattern of clown-masked executions appearing on US soil and the shocking new theory that his rise is being secretly allowed. You won't believe who's protecting the clown. They're protecting the clown now. Let's get this out of the way. The clown isn't just back, he's being protected, because when a video of a cartel defector begging for his life goes viral with the words "El Payaso ve todo" written on a wall behind him in blood, and Mexican federal forces can't explain how the killer clown they arrested in 2020 is suddenly active again, one thing becomes painfully clear. Someone, somewhere high up, knows more than they're saying, and now the bodies are piling up faster than the government can deny them. In the last 72 days, 17 bodies have been recovered across 5 Mexican states, all linked to CJNG, all mutilated beyond recognition, and all found with one common detail: a red balloon. In Michoacán, a man was nailed to a tree by his hands and feet, with a sign around his neck reading, "Sonríe, Mencho, se acabó tu circo." Smile, Mencho, your circus is over. In Veracruz, an entire family was found murdered inside their home. Parents, 3 children, a grandmother.
And now the clown has crossed the border. If that doesn't terrify you, I don't know what will. Here's the real question. Why is no government agency stepping in? Why the silence? Is it incompetence, or is someone protecting him? Let's talk theories.
The walls were painted with handprints dipped in blood. A single balloon floated above the crib. And in Guadalajara, a clown-masked figure was caught on CCTV, casually placing a package inside a parked CJNG convoy vehicle. The vehicle exploded 5 minutes later. But here's what no one is reporting publicly. This is now allegedly happening on US soil. Last month, in Laredo, Texas, border authorities reportedly discovered a burned-out SUV near the riverbanks. Inside, 2 bodies, CJNG affiliates who were on a Homeland Security watch list. Faces removed, fingers broken backward. In the ash on the windshield, someone had written, "Boom, El Payaso, lego." Boom, the clown has arrived. No fingerprints, no DNA. But an eyewitness described seeing 2 men in clown masks running toward the water minutes before the explosion. You heard that right. He's crossed the border. Now let's pause and ask, how? How is a man like El Payaso, once captured, caged, confirmed as imprisoned, now possibly coordinating international assassinations without any government agency stepping forward? Why hasn't Mexico issued a national alert? Why hasn't Interpol been activated? Why hasn't the DEA acknowledged the video they received of a man being executed with the message, "This one's for Mencho"? The answer, tragically, is as old as power itself. Because he's useful. The theory they don't want you to hear, El Payaso is now a tool of political leverage, a scapegoat when needed, a boogeyman to blame, and most chillingly, a puppet used to destabilize rivals under the guise of rogue terror. Let's rewind to the raid that supposedly captured him in 2020. La Catrina, CJNG's 21-year-old bloodthirsty enforcer, was gunned down by Mexican federal forces ere a shootout in Aguililla. El Payaso, they said, was captured in the same raid, except there's no record of his processing in public databases. We've seen footage of El Chapo's extradition, of La Catrina dying in a helicopter, but El Payaso, nothing. What if that's because the deal was made from day one that went something like this. You want your freedom, then destabilize Mencho, become the virus within CJNG. And what better way to implode the cartel from the inside than with fear? Fear in the form of a living legend, a myth, a monster in grease paint. The truth is, Mexican political figures have long used narco violence as a tool. There's precedent. In 2011, a whistleblower revealed how federal authorities in Mexico knowingly allowed Los Zetas to operate in exchange for inside intel on rivals. In some cases, assassinations were allowed if they were strategic to national security interests. So what if that strategy hasn't just continued but evolved? What if the clown is now an unofficial weapon of the state, not controlled, not managed, but tolerated because his presence weakens everyone around him? Let's not forget, El Payaso's original enemy wasn't the Mexican government, it wasn't the DEA, it was El Mencho, the same man whose cartel now controls 22 of Mexico's 32 states, earning billions annually in cocaine, fentanyl, and crystal meth. A man so powerful, some analysts call him the next Escobar, and a man whose grip on power has only one real weakness. His men fear someone more than they fear him. That someone, the clown. Here's where things go nuclear. According to an intercepted communication between two DEA liaisons operating in Jalisco and Sinaloa, El Payaso may have been used as a disinformation source in a 2021 op that led to the death of Mencho's cousin, Ruben El Gato Oseguera. Ruben was ambushed while leaving a hotel in Puerto Vallarta. No official source ever claimed responsibility for the tip, but Hernandez's leaked report said informant Q13, known internally as Harlequin, provided accurate movements of target and was rewarded per agreement. Harlequin, coincidence, or did the DEA knowingly rebrand the clown as something more subtle? Because if the man behind some of Mexico's worst cartel atrocities is now codenamed Harlequin by international authorities, then we've stepped into a new kind of war, a psychological one. Now let's talk about the one group that isn't staying silent, the cartels. While CJNG scrambles to keep its lieutenants alive, two rival cartels, Sinaloa and La Familia Michoacana, have reportedly opened back-channel communications with circle defectors, not to recruit, but to broker truces. One intercepted call allegedly featured a Sinaloa contact saying, "Let the clown handle Jalisco. We'll handle this is realpolitik at its most brutal." The clown, once a rogue symbol of horror, is now being weaponized diplomatically, and as sick as it sounds, it's working. In the past 60 days, CJNG has lost 5 confirmed plazas, control zones, to local militias. 3 major supply routes have been disrupted, and 6 mid-level CJNG commanders have either gone missing or defected, all while the clown's footprint expands. This isn't a coincidence, it's a collapse, and one being accelerated by a monster everyone thought was gone. But what happens when the monster outgrows his cage? Because here's the biggest danger no one's talking about. El Payaso may no longer care about revenge, or territory, or even power. He may care about chaos itself. Let's go back to a phrase whispered by nearly every defector who survived El Payaso's circle of laughter. He doesn't kill for money, he kills to show he's real. And that, right there, is the most dangerous thing in this world. A killer who no longer kills for profit, but for faith. In a school playground in Tepic, Nayarit, a teacher reportedly noticed a group of children gathered around something in the sandbox. When she approached, they scattered. She looked down. What she found made her scream. It was a handwritten comic book, drawn in colored pencil, called El Circo del Diablo. The drawing showed a masked clown killing narcos, rescuing kidnapped children, and burning piles of drugs. On the last page, the clown stood on a mountain of skulls. The caption read, "El payaso es justicia, todos los malos caen." The clown is justice. All the bad guys fall. Let that sink in. The next generation of children in cartel-ravaged towns are idolizing the clown. He's no longer just a horror story. He's a hero. And that, my friends, is the final form of terror. Not just when a monster returns, not just when he multiplies, but when he becomes righteous in the eyes of the innocent. So now we're Lou with 3 chilling conclusions. 1. The clown has escaped control. Whether he was released, never caught, or flipped by someone in power, he's now outside anyone's command. Not a cartel, not state, not even foreign agencies. 2. He's building something new. The circle isn't a gang, it's a cult, with rituals, beliefs, and growing influence, even across borders. 3. He's becoming a legend. The clown is no longer just feared, he's being worshipped, and that's when violence becomes immortal. Here's the terrifying truth. El Mencho may be Mexico's most powerful drug lord, but El Payaso is now its most powerful idea. You can kill a man, you can arrest a killer, but you can't put a bullet in a myth, and that's exactly what the clown has become. A walking ghost, bleeding symbolism, rising not just from the ashes of cartel warfare, but from the desperation of a nation that no longer believes in justice. If you enjoyed this video, click on the videos on your screen for more.